Welcome to Single Leg Parlay. I'm Al. That's Matt. These are beers. We're going to drink them. Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, we're running the cover 2 tonight, bud.
Mano a mano. So this is the NFL Week 3 recap podcast. We're going to go over Week 3, review our picks, and then give you our most impressive, our most suspect, the usual rundown for the week. And then Matt's got a fun little game we'll put a cap on this thing with. So to recap last week's picks, the ones we gave out on the pod, 2 and 3. Again, I don't think the picks we give out on the pods have been hitting very successfully, but
No.
Hopefully you're subscribed to our Substack, singlelegparlay.com. Hit the subscribe button on that. We get all of our picks sent to your inbox. If you did that, you went 25-9 on picks this past week.
I'm not a math magician, but that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, 25 is actually a lot higher than 9.
Thank you.
That's some math for you. That's high level math. 73.5%. Listen, you cannot find a tout or a sharp out there giving out picks that are hitting consistently over a 60% clip. We did this week 1, I think we hit 70%, and we immediately said we're not going to be doing this all season. Turns out we actually are. So on the whole season as a whole, we're hitting at 72.5%, 58-22 overall through 3 weeks.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
That's stupid. Honestly, everybody listening, expect some regression because it's only natural, but we're hoping to keep it right at 70% for you guys.
I was like, I'm gonna actually start betting heavily on all of our picks here, instead of just playing mine. And I looked back last year at least, and I think there were out of the 17 weeks, at least between Andy and I think we were 13-3 for winning weeks. So still, you're very likely to have winners every week, even if we're jinxing ourselves here. But yeah, I just want to make it clear that we're hitting at an astronomical clip, and we've been doing it for 3 weeks now. So to recap individually, myself, I went 7-3 last week on my picks. I'm 18-6 on the season. Andy went 5-1, and he's 11-7 on the season. Sunshine gave out 5 picks. He went 3-2. He's 4-3 on the season, still getting ahead of the vig there. And then Danny went 7-3 as well, and he is 15-5 on the season, which is crazy. And then Matt had a 3-0 week. It just seems to be the right number of picks for you because you are 10-1 on the season. You give nothing but accurate picks out, buddy.
Yeah, I think I'm going to regress a little bit. I think I'm going to play 5 this week and expand the board a little bit. But there's a couple staples that will be guaranteed in there. If you've listened to this podcast either earlier this year or in previous seasons, there's a couple things I always like to do. So we're back at it.
Yeah, I think what's fun too is we don't have huge clunkers where we go 2-9 on a week, So I feel like you can have pretty good confidence that even if you don't win money, you're not going to lose your ass tailing these picks. So full warning up, be smart with your wagers, but it's a pretty solid move tailing our picks here. So that's enough tooting our own horn, patting ourselves on the back. But yeah, if you're not following us, please do. You're going to be making some money, buying some PS5s, getting some spending money for the weekend.
Take the family on a beach vacation. On us.
Take them to a nice steak dinner. Take your mother-in-law out to a seafood restaurant.
She deserves it. She'll love it.
I'm just imagining sitting down to dinner with my mother-in-law and being like, here, dinner's on me with all my gambling winnings.
Industry! The finest brandies around. You're like, what the hell's wrong with you? You have a monocle? You're like, this is my winnings monocle.
This is what I use to read my lines in my sports book.
You're like,
Um, all right. Well, let's get into talking about last week, shall we?
yep.
Matt, what team impressed you the most last week?
There's a lot of impressive teams out there, so it's hard to pick one. I'm going to pick the Seahawks. No, they played a down and out Dolphins team that is not very good on defense, and they rely on their offense to be the best part of their defense, and they suffocated the shit out of them, right? Seattle's had a good defense, and they've looked solid every week. They went to New England, had to win in overtime, but that's a hard travel. That's a long trip from Seattle to Boston. And they looked fine. Every week they look like they're getting better and better. And as they play more games with the 12th man behind them, they're going to be a tough out. That NFC West is looking more wide open than we originally expected. Keep an
I
eye on the Seattle Seahawks,
I
boys.
think I saw a stat the other day where they've only given up like 160 passing yards on the season.
Yo, they're good.
And
They're legit
granted,
good.
it was been against backup quarterbacks in every stop. Um, but yeah, that's not something to bat an eye at, right? Um, so there's a number of teams we could talk about here. I think the Falcons had a really good showing against the Chiefs, despite the loss. I think the Jets kind of turned things around, routing the Patriots on Thursday night. But I would say there are also the Panthers with the redheaded
Red
um,
Rifle, baby.
yeah,
Red
Red
Rifle's
Rifle
back.
baby. Andy Dalton had a show out, man. He went off, and that suddenly looks like a professional football team again. Um, so lots of impressive weeks, but I would say the team that's probably impressed me the most so far has been the Vikings. Sam Darnold. It does not seem like it was a flash in the pan. Seems like that skill level and that performance is here to stay. I think he showed up on the injury report this week, so something to keep an eye on. But the Vikings are tough. That's a really good squad.
Yeah, I'm going to talk more about Sam Darnold in a minute as we go further along in the awards. But that defense is fierce, boy.
Yeah.
They run like their hair is on fire. They look super good so far, and I can't say anything bad
Yeah.
about Justin Jefferson. He continues to look good.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe it's a Lions fan in me, but I was really hoping the Vikings would be down this year, especially like JJ McCarthy as a rookie. I was like, oh, look at my chops at like a 500 Viking squad being the most trouble in the division. And then lo and behold, the Packers, Jordan Love's only gone for a couple of weeks, and Malik Willis goes 2-0 in his stead. And then Sam Darnold comes out with his hair on fire and, torches teams every week, and it's like suddenly it looks like tough sledding in the NFC North. But
I think you'll see it settle out a little bit more. I don't think these teams will continue to play that hot. Look, I'm rooting for the
yeah,
Vikings because I would love to see the Jets, who lost Geno Smith and Sam Darnold, would love to watch them struggle and those quarterbacks shine outside New York because New York's a cesspool, especially that
yeah,
Jets team is a cesspool. That would bring me a lot of joy. But I do think you're going to see some regression, especially with a team like the Vikings.
yeah,
You can only be that good when Johnny Munt's catching touchdowns. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about, baby. Um, so let's move on to the Kaiser Soze. That's our usual suspect. Like, who's the most suspect team of the week? I'm gonna kick things off here with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Um, Spoiler alert, they're going to be the team I mentioned in the next segment here too, but they are super bad. They like there's so much dysfunction. It feels like Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke, the Jags GM, are just like intentionally doing a bad job to make the other guy's day worse. It's like, oh, I'm going to draft bad guys so that Doug looks like an asshole. And Doug's like, well, I'm going to sit the talented guys so that Trent looks like an asshole. And then the result is you've got a shitty product on the field and guys are giving up and not wanting to compete. So, um, with all my buddies here in town, it sure feels like the sky is falling. Like everyone's calling for, cleaning house. Is Trevor Lawrence even the guy? So real like questionable talk, and it's like honestly, I'm not sure I disagree with any of it. You know,
No.
clean
Uh,
house, and I'm not sure Trevor's talented. I think we talk about Sam Darnold seeing ghosts back when he was on the Jets. I feel like that's exactly where Trevor Lawrence is right now.
Trevor Lawrence is 0-8 in his last 8 starts.
Yeah,
That's crazy. They lost. I don't think he's won since Thanksgiving, and they played a full schedule in December, and I think they may have played a January game going into this year. That's not a great sign, and they just gave him a bucket of cash.
yeah,
So good luck managing that. I know we like to fire coaches. I like to fire coaches in college football, and I like that particularly because the players used to not get paid. And I love watching the people who get paid lose their jobs when the players should be getting paid. But Doug Peterson has got to be close to being fired. Like, yeah, that shit ain't good. There's
yeah.
nothing.
I think
There's nothing palatable about what I watched the other day.
the expectation is that someone's going to lose their job, like maybe this week even. Although it's like late in the week
Wow.
now at this point to do it, but I don't know. Shad Khan's been one who is not very quick to pull the trigger, and he's very reluctant to actually clean house. He likes to keep guys, at least
He's a loyal
somebody
guy.
and it's like, dude, I don't know, if you're not going to clean house after Urban Meyer, like I don't know what would
That's the best point I've ever
drive you to
heard.
actually do it, right?
Yeah, like if you don't clean house after Urban Meyer. God, if Urban Meyer's staying at your Airbnb, you're using every dollar of that cleaning fee. That house needs to be cleaned. You know his fingers
Yeah,
were all
you're
over the
keeping like
furniture.
half of his security deposit immediately.
Yeah, his fingers were all over the furniture. His fingers were in the kitchen. No one wants any of that, right? You don't want
Yeah.
his fingerprints anywhere.
Matt, who's your Kaiser Soze this week?
State of Ohio, super suspect. The whole damn state of Ohio. Cincinnati, look, I don't know what the fuck's going on with you guys. I do think you'll get right. I do think you'll get right at some point, but it ain't right. I do think the Bengals played pretty well the other day. It was just I don't want to. No, no one has the award. Oh yeah, you have an award coming up. I don't want to steal your award recipient, but the Commanders played great, right? And there was one cog that made them play really, really great that game. But Cleveland, here's a fun fact, Al. There has not been a. Do you know what EPA is? That's expected points added. So every drive on offense, you get assigned an EPA, right? So every play is like, well, that play is expected to earn zero point 0.1 points or negative zero point 0.1 points. There has never been, since the Cleveland Browns came back into the NFL in 96, 97, they've never had a lower EPA than they have this year. They are playing terribly. This is with Couch. This is with Johnny Manziel. They had better offenses and offensive production during those time periods than they are right now. They look miserable. I understand Nick Chubb is like the lifeblood of that team, and him being out is a problem. But come the fuck on, man.
Yeah.
Like at
I mean,
some
that
point,
team has Amari Cooper on it. They have
they
David
have Jerry
Njoku. Like,
Judy. They
yeah,
have Jerry Judy.
there are
They
guys
have
there. They
Paul
just
Rose.
can't get the ball.
You want to talk about seeing ghosts? Deshaun Watson, he's
Yeah.
looking at his first read and then happy to take a sack or try to run. And that ain't going to do it in the NFL. You can do that
Yeah.
in college. I don't know what's happened to him as a human being or an athlete, but shit has gone so far south from the athletic perspective, more than I ever thought it would be.
Yeah. It's almost
that
like
team
giving
sucks.
someone like the most guaranteed money of all time is not necessarily a good thing sometimes, especially when that person has shown themselves to be a less than palatable human being.
A dumpster human.
Yeah. And also, so the Taylor brothers down bad, huh? Zach and Press. Those Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Bengals, 0-3. Press Taylor, offensive coordinator of the Jaguars, 0-3. Oof.
Not a good time to be a Taylor.
Not a good Taylor time.
No, not
Not even for the tool man.
Not even the tool man's doing well. Not even the people who make clothes. It's a bad industry for all tailors.
Yes. Yeah. All right. I want to go on record we do a segment here. Boy, was I wrong. And let me tell you, I was wrong not only about the Texans,
You were wrong.
who definitely dropped one to the Vikings, right? Is that who they played?
Yep.
Um, and then the Titans as well, who got whooped by Malik Willis and the Packers. But also, I told y'all to bet on the Jags, and they got dog walked by the Bills on Monday Night Football. So that's 0 for 3 on the AFC South this week. Luckily, I won all my other bets, but yeah, boy, was I wrong. That's not a very good division by the looks of it right now.
No, real bad. Houston, I think, will bounce back. I do think there's a lot of talent and promise there. But shit is maybe it's Stephon Diggs, right? Have you seen everyone clapping back at Stephon Diggs right now? Even Baltimore looks I'm sorry, Buffalo looks better without Diggs. And I don't know how to describe that. Maybe because Josh Allen can pass anywhere he wants. I'm just tinfoil hatting her, by the way. I'm sure Diggs is lovely, but
Well, yeah, I
something
think of that.
ain't right.
You ever see that like locker room interview where they asked all the Vikings players like who would you least want to date your sister? And literally like the entire roster like unanimously said Stephon Diggs. And then they asked him about it and he's like, "Really? I think I'm a good guy." So I don't know. There's definitely something I miss about Stephon Diggs in a locker room presence. Um but yeah, I mean, he's got talent. I think it's the Texans, especially. I think is a matter of who they've played. They happen to play some teams who are a lot better than people maybe thought they were going into the year.
Yeah.
Whereas the Jags and Titans, I think, well, Titans are probably about as good as people expected, which is not very. And the Jags have just like fallen off a cliff and stayed there. So I don't know. Let's see. It doesn't look like you were wrong about much last week, so I just want to point out a couple things. Andy said he was wrong about the 49ers and Rams under, which I believe that went over by like 3 scores. So, yeah, he's a little bit off on that one, but still strung together a good week. And then Chris was wrong about the Saints. They did not pull it out against the Eagles.
That shit was close. I think he lost on the
Yeah,
hook.
yeah.
That's barely
That's one of
wrong,
those
but
games
yes,
where
he
it's
was
like
wrong.
you're on a side and you think it might be the right side, but it's like a coin flip kind of game, and it felt that way the whole game, even though the Eagles did their best to just not score at all. Oh, let's get in the red zone and go for it and not convert. Oh, let's get in the red zone and throw an interception. It's like, you just felt like they were going to score and they kept not scoring, and then they scored.
Yeah, Sirianni may be too smart for his own good kind of thing. I
That's a
wonder if
that's a
his
guy
son is
whose
willing.
roster is covering his ass. He is a dog shit coach. He's not a good coach.
Agreed. Agreed. Everyone fell in love. Everyone made fun of him because the press conference was the worst thing a professional coach has ever done. And then everyone's like, well, maybe he's just a football guy. I think he's just an idiot who is
Yes.
lucky. And he runs the same play over and over again on 4th and goal. And it's one of those things like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I think you need to fix the motherfucker a little bit. You
It's
know what I'm
like
saying? It's not resulting.
Mark Wahlberg in that Eagles movie. Only like if he was a coach and not a player.
Yeah.
Invincible. Man,
Is
Mark
that, yeah.
Wahlberg. He's in a lot of dog shit movies that are like still like I'll leave it on the TV and watch it because it's entertaining, but it's like not quality. You know what I mean?
Okay. I'm going to say, I think The Rock does the most dog shit movies.
Yeah.
But I'll think of some more as we talk on.
Like Mark Wahlberg, like Lone Shooter. That's a good movie. It's an entertaining movie, but it's not like it's all of Mark Wahlberg's movies. You'd be embarrassed to admit that you watched or that you enjoyed, but they are like kind of enjoyable. They're like a TNT at 2 in the morning enjoyable.
I love a TNT at 2 in the morning. Something
Yeah,
you're scrolling past, and you're like,
yeah.
you're like, this takes me back.
You
This is
happen
a
on
terrible
like
movie.
halfway through, and you're like, I'll watch the last like 45 minutes of this. That's like all of Mark Wahlberg's catalog.
Yeah, no, I agree. Nicolas Cage is like really climbing the charts. He's doing a lot of Batman.
Yeah, yeah. He actually, I feel like he did so many dog shit movies that now the movies he does are actually a little bit better than what he
But
was doing because he's just
they're
like,
like cat shit to dog shit, right?
yes,
Like they're
exactly.
smaller, they're not as toxic to the nose, but they're not
It's
great.
like the white fuzzy like post winter dog shit that like it's not, it's like hardly even seems like shit, but it is definitely still shit.
I did hear about the talent, the unbearable weight of massive talent or whatever is supposed to be really good. So I know he
Yeah,
still has it in him. He just does a lot of bad movies. Bruce
yeah.
Willis was doing the same thing at the end, but I kind of get why he was doing that. He knew like aphasia was
Like
coming, and he was
he,
like, I got to make some money for my family while I can.
like Nick Cage does not say no to a role.
No,
It's
I
like,
think I think
yeah,
he I think he has some legal financial issues where he has to keep
yeah, right,
working.
yeah. He's yeah indebted to everyone and everyone. I saw an interview with Richard Kind. You know who Richard Kind is?
Mhm. Love Richard
Yeah.
Kind.
And the interviewer asked him if he knew how many roles he was in, like on IMDb, if he knew like how many like castings he's been in, and I think he guessed 290, and the answer was 293. And I don't know
Wow.
which is more impressive, to have been in that many things or to have be that close with your guess.
293. He has to keep a tally. There's
Right.
no way you can just like guess that off the. I feel like within your first 50, you kind of know exactly the number. When you've been in 293 different pieces of art, there's
Yeah.
no way you can continue to remember that. He
Yeah.
has to like chalk it up.
Unless
Maybe
yeah,
he's one
unless
of
he's
those.
like keeping track of like the centennial marks each time, and he's like, I know I'm close to 300, but I'm not there. But yeah, that's a lot of shit. That's a man who does not turn down a role.
No, he does not. But he's really good at the awkward roles that he does.
Yeah. Speaking of guys who do not turn down roles, I'm going to give out my award. It's a Dagger Award, and it is to Jaden Daniels. His
Hell yeah.
role as the Commanders quarterback, he's not turning that thing down for a long time. He looks really good. That drive. So listen, they had a 5-point lead with I think 3.5 minutes left in that game, and they were faced with fourth down just inside Bengals territory. And Jane Daniels was like, let's fucking go. Give me the play. 4th and 4, not even like 4th and 1. He's like, we're going for it. What's the play? And then cool as a cucumber, completes a pass over the middle, picks up the first down. And then they're in another third down position, I think somewhere around the 30-yard line. They get a free blitzer coming right at him, and he just lobs it up, drops a perfect dime to Terry McLaurin, like 5 yards deep in the end zone, right on the sideline, right over the shoulder. Boom, game ender. You're up 2 scores with 2 minutes left. Bengals are toast.
I was most impressed with like the mental side of it, right? You could tell, you could see him controlling the line. Now, there's some things he did poorly. Like he was taking too much time to set everything up. If they needed timeouts, they had to burn a couple on that drive, but it was really important drive.
But
So I
again, he's a
understand.
rookie. Like that's gonna go away. He's gonna
Oh
figure that out,
no,
right? Like that's the
but
thing. Like
his command of everything was so good. He was calling audibles at the line. On that third down play, he saw it was a zero blitz because the Bengals, I forgot his defensive coordinator, but he's really good. Lou, some
yeah,
shit.
Lou Amarillo or something.
Yeah,
Amar- yeah.
I think it's right.
Amarillo by
Um,
morning.
he saw the zero blitz, and it's kind of his tendency. He likes to bring pressure on third downs, especially against a young quarterback. I don't blame him. He read it perfectly. He knew he had one on one, and he just looked at Terry McLaurin, made it look super fucking easy. Like it was this side as he was coming. Like there's some command issues he'll get. You know, he can
Yeah,
be very
he
good.
has supreme arm talent, and I think the best part about that offense is it's like a really simple offense. It's just really fucking hard to defend. You've got people running like crossers and posts and goes, and it's like if those aren't open, get it with your legs.
Run.
And like if
It's the
you know,
LSU offense. You just
yeah,
have guys that are super fucking fast. He's like, you go. This guy, middle,
yeah,
boom, not open, run. It is. It will be figured out, but I'm glad. I'm glad it's happening, and hopefully his maturity and everything, his command of everything at the end of the game is like the most promising side. Yeah, his
yeah.
numbers were remarkable. He was
And
fucking awesome.
I mentioned well, so one, I think Terry McLaurin called for that go ball. I think he was like, throw the go, like it's gonna be open. And then I think Cliff Kingsbury's their OC. He called it, and Jaden threw it, and that was it, game over. Which I think one is a really cool thing for Terry McLaurin, who has been a phenomenal receiver in this league and undervalued and underappreciated
Definitely.
because of the lack of talent at that quarterback position. And to
Absolutely.
have someone who has the arm talent to put him in positions to make big plays like that is a very exciting thing. But here's a stat that I read off to you on Monday or Tuesday night when we were recording, that I thought was like super surprising. The last time that there was a game in the NFL with 0 punts and 0 turnovers was in 1940. That is 86 years ago, if my math is right. That's like, I don't even think they had the forward pass then. Like, they might have just had it. It might have been a novelty in the sport. So it's just insane. That game, the offense of output on both sides. So obviously the Commanders, what's going to be hamstringing that team this year is their defense. So hopefully they figured that out. But that is without a doubt a very exciting team to be watching going forward.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I love it that Snyder lost his team. Now they finally get the right quarterback, and now they're playing well. They
Yeah, I
dropped the
hope.
old
Yeah, nothing but the
moniker.
best for them.
They dropped the old owner, and I hope them nothing but success because everyone in the NFL
Yeah.
is rooting against Dan Snyder.
Do you have an award to give out this week, Matt?
I do. I'm going to call it the damn Darnold because hot damn, Sam Darnold is on fire. Here's some stats for the season, right? He is not throwing for the most yardage, right? He is throwing for 657 yards in 3 games, right at the 220 clip. He's not going to like blow you away with his arm or him putting up massive numbers, but really considerable. He's thrown 8 touchdowns. He's only thrown 2 picks. That's pretty fucking good. Really, the biggest increases here is in his previous years at New York, his QBR was like around 44, right? Out of 100. So he was a below average quarterback. In Carolina, he was right around 44 if you kind of average out the season. This year, he's at a 74. So he
Yeah.
is a top quarter of the NFL quarterback. So it shows that you don't necessarily need to be the guy throwing 300 yards or 30 times a game in order to be really effective. And it's also easy when you have Justin Jefferson and you could always just like, all right, go get it. And
Yeah.
you don't need great receivers. You can have nailers and munts around him because Justin Jefferson is so good. But
Yeah.
I just can't believe it, man. I've been blown away by his performance.
I think
Do
the way
expect
that,
regression, but
yeah.
so far I'm here to enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I mean, 3 games is pretty close to a trend, so it might be sticking around, but I sure hope it levels off at some point. But I was going to say, having a talented receiver that can have success on deep balls. So obviously that's 2 to tango, right? You need a quarterback that can put the ball in a place for the receiver to go get it, and you need a receiver to
Definitely.
be able to get in a position to make plays on those balls. But to have a consistent threat on deep balls puts such a burden on the defense that it really opens up so much for an offense. So the fact that he's having success throwing downfield to JJ, I think is really what is the catalyst for that offense. And so I think if he is going to drop off in his performance, it's going to start with teams taking away that deep ball. But yeah, that's a tough one. It's a tough team to pin down, especially with the defense as good as they have.
Oh, I also think it's important to note that his average yards per attempt going into the season was 6.6. This year it's 8.4. While that doesn't seem like a big number, that goes
That's a
from
big jump.
below average to above average because 7 yards is kind of like that benchmark.
Yeah.
If you can get 7 yards per pass attempt, you're kind of like just a regular quarterback. 8.4 is remarkable. So
Yeah, you don't get to over 8 without throwing it downfield.
Yeah.
At a decent clip.
Yep. All right, you guys, you want to play a game really quick? I just want to ask you some questions, right? There are some teams out there I do not understand their records. do not understand what's going on with them. But I just want to ask you this simple question. Al, are the Bengals bad?
Yes. I'm going to say yes.
Um,
I'm going to say I think the Bengals are bad. I think their defense is bad, and I think their offense is coming around. But
yeah,
unless they figure something out on defense, that's a bad team.
I,
And
I
also,
kind
it
of
might be too
agree.
late.
Yeah, 0-3 is a hard hole to jump out of, right? I do think it's been done, but it is. I think it's like 5% of the time those teams make
And
the
that's not the
playoffs.
division you want to be in when you're starting 0-3.
No, not when you got like Pittsburgh and other teams breathing down your neck.
I mean,
Baltimore will
granted,
probably be
Baltimore
like,
also started off 1-2, so that you're not that far behind. And the Steelers can't keep it up this all season. But those are teams that know how to win games in bunches, and it's hard to dig yourself out of a hole in that position.
yep. I agree with everything you said. I think the defense may be suspect. Hendrickson is good, right? Very good. I don't think their pass defense is very good.
Yeah.
Like the secondary. So I'll be interested to see how that goes going forward. This is one I cannot believe I'm going to ask, right? They've been really good, but are the 49ers bad?
I'm going to say no. And the reason I'm saying no is because of all of the injuries they have. I think they're just hurt. I think George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, and Deebo Samuel all missed their game this past week against the Rams, which the Rams had to come back to win that one.
Yeah,
Rams also banged up, so like, I guess take that for what it is. But I think a healthy 49ers squad is still the team to beat in this league. It's just yet to be seen if we're actually going to see that this year.
I think the 49ers are good. I think relying on Jawan Jennings to get you 11 catches for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns, while it's incredible considering did anyone have Jawan Jennings on their fantasy team this week? Because that seems like a miss. Um, I think when you get Debo back, you get George back, and you have Christian McCaffrey back, it's a totally different like wagon.
Yeah,
Their
and
defense is still pretty good.
I think Brock Purdy too is like a game manager quarterback. He's a guy who thrives when he's putting the ball in his playmakers' hands and letting them make plays instead of like being required to make the play himself to replacement level talent. You know,
Yeah.
like Tom Brady, didn't matter who he was throwing to,
Nope.
he could win a game. But you look at like Trent Dilfer or Brad Johnson kind of
Brad
caliber,
Johnson
where
is
like
exactly what I was thinking of. He is
yeah,
just like, he needs everything to be right.
yeah, a guy who plays well within the system. And that's not really a knock on Brock, but yeah, I think most people would agree that with the talent on that roster, that kind of made him as good a quarterback as he is.
Yeah. Al, are the Dallas Cowboys bad?
No, no, maybe. No.
So Micah Parsons is good,
Well,
right? We can all agree. We can all agree Micah Parsons is good. We can all agree CeeDee Lamb is good. Is Dak Prescott good? He's not bad.
that's such an interesting question, right? That's like it doesn't matter if that dude wins MVP or if he like gets benched. That's always an interesting question. It's like when I don't think he does well with expectation. Like I don't even think it's a talent question. I think it's just like when there's expectation and like pressure on him, I don't think he can live up to it. I don't think he performs well.
I
But
think
like
it's
as a
also a
chippy
really
underdog,
hard
I think he
job
does well.
not to excel with expectation because that is the most, I would say, probably the most pressure packed quarterback job in the NFL,
Yeah.
being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
I
I mean,
think
his
he's got a
numbers.
really I think he has a really low or really high floor, but he definitely has a ceiling that is like just above elite or just below elite.
Yeah, his
You
QBR this
know.
year is 45.5, not particularly good. I do think he'll get right, but that his numbers this year have been bad, and I don't
Yeah.
know if I look. They looked good against a bad Cleveland Browns team week 1, but that could just be a fucking bad team, like just a
Yeah.
bad football team.
Yes.
Um, and I think it's leaning that way. Yeah, none of his
Yeah, I think
numbers are
this Giants
remarkable.
game will be interesting. They play the Giants this week, and I think that's a
Mhm.
good litmus test because the Giants, while they haven't looked that great, they looked good against the Browns last week, and they're starting to click on both sides of the ball a little bit. I don't think anyone's expecting the Giants to win that division or compete for it, but I think they'll probably be flirting with a 500 record. And so if the Cowboys struggle with that, you kind of know where to slot them in. And if they, take it to the Giants and just blow them out, then they're where we sort of expected them to be at the beginning of the year.
Agreed. Agreed. They need to win that game. They need to go out there and beat the hell out
Yeah,
of the
you can't
Giants.
start 1-2 and lose to the Giants.
No, no,
No.
not like Jerry Jones will implode. And then this isn't even a question, but the Dolphins are bad. I was going to ask, are the
Yeah,
Dolphins bad? Without Tua, that team is bad. That defense sucks. They
I'm
stink. They
not
lost.
sure McDaniels is a good coach without Tua. I think he
I'm
put
not.
all his eggs in that basket, and the eggs got scrambled.
Yeah, look, it's hard. Being an NFL head coach is only as good of a job as you have an elite defense or you have a great quarterback, right? If you don't have one of those two things, you're probably a 7-9, 6-10, 8-8. Sorry, you're right around 500, probably below 500. So, like Mike Tomlin's done this forever because he always knows how to coach defense. If he had an elite quarterback for the last few years, they'd be fucking great, right?
Yeah,
He would be really really great at it. They don't. They don't. Um, I do think like Bill Belichick. I don't think is a great coach. He wasn't a great coach in New York. He wasn't in any New York stops. He just was great. It's great to have Tom Brady, right? Anyone looks good next to him, right? So I do think there's something to that portion, but the Dolphins' defense stinks. And if you can't get the ball to Waddle and you can't get the ball to Hill, you're not going to be able to
yeah,
run the ball.
yeah.
Like everything loses its power. Those guys are the key to the offense moving. So they stink. Bad team.
Yeah, I think it's one thing if you have an off season or several seasons to craft an offense around your quarterback. I think we've yet to see if McDaniel's can actually cater his offense to the quarterback he has to play with instead of to Tua. So that's real, and maybe it's a tall task asking him to make that flip in a single week, especially when you're not even sure that week who's going to be starting. Um, but I would say if we don't see improvement over the next couple of weeks, then that's maybe something that he needs to work on, and that the Dolphins are going to have to figure out long term what they're going to do at quarterback.
For sure. That's all I got. That was the game.
Do you have any thought on Tua? Like, is he hanging it up, or do you think he's coming back?
They said he's going to come back. If I was him, I wouldn't come back. As a
Yeah,
fan of the Dolphins, I do understand of the predicament that would put me and my fandom in. But as a fan of human beings, I do think he's probably going down a slippery slope. The damage is probably already done. In 10 or 15 years, we'll see what the outcome is. But you just got paid. I would be begging to be forced to medically retire so I can get on
yeah.
my contract and have it go
Go
off
be a
to the
coach.
Dolphins.
You can
Go
stay
do
in the
whatever the
sport.
hell you
Do it.
want.
Yeah,
You go hang out with Nick Saban. Go work on College Game Day. Like you could do that. You can
yeah.
probably be charming enough to do that. It doesn't really matter.
It's so
I
hard to
personally,
your future is such a tricky thing to gamble with, right? Because it doesn't exist yet. It's not tangible.
yeah,
You're like, oh, who cares what I'm going to be like in 20 years? I want to play now. But then 20 years go by and you're like, you know, not the person you thought you'd be. So
yeah,
I
and
hope
it,
I hope he hangs it up, but um, not because I don't want to see him play, but because I want him to have a livable future.
well, and it's different. I get it too because he spent what last 20 years working his ass off to get to this level. He got
Yeah,
the big payday. I'm happy he got the big payday. That's awesome. I'm really, really happy for him. But
yeah,
like you got now he has a wife and he has two kids. It's like, buddy, you got a
yeah.
lot of money. You got a lot
You
of
got to be there.
greenbacks in your account. It'd be better to be like a keep your brain capacity for living that life to its fullest, because that shit will be there in 15 years where your football career probably won't be.
Yeah. So
It took a serious turn.
yeah, I don't know if we have a lighter note to end on, but
Are the Ravens bad?
no, the
No.
Ravens are not bad. Their record is bad. They are not bad. That's my
Agreed.
take. Oh, great save, Matt. So that caps off our NFL Week 3 recap pod. Remember, we are hitting at a significantly higher clip than 70% on our picks so far. So go to singlelegparlay.com, read all of our content, subscribe, go to your favorite podcast platform that you're listening to this on, rate, review, subscribe, do all the things that get us in front of more ears and eyeballs.
Hell yeah. Thank you guys. We love y'all.
Thanks. Cheers.